Welcome to Stuck Time to Improv. I'm Mary Scott with Business Riff, and I want startup businesses to be wildly successful. Today, we have a sort of cautionary tale. My special guest is Shaun Hayes, who's the author of The Great Choice. And this is a man who knows the importance of failure. So,
Yes.
welcome, Shaun.
Mary, thank you so much for having me. I love your show, and I'm honored to be a guest today. And, no one likes to talk about failure, but when you fail big, you learn a lot. And I've done that.
Okay, well, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was fortunate at 29, bought a company with some people, bank, and we built it up, took it public, and sold it for $500 million and did very well. But I thought I was invincible. And I spent 4 years with a Fortune 200 and I lost my market sense. It's like watching your shows prior to this. You're talking to people who are on the ground. And I lost two things. I lost my moral compass eventually, which I'll come back to, but I also lost what I call ground intelligence. I think most entrepreneurs are guerrilla warfare kind of people. It's like I love that book, Guerrilla Marketing. And they do things like that. And when you spend 4 years in a company with 35,000, you lose that. And then when the recession of '08 hit, I went back into what I thought I could do again once before. And macroeconomics were just crazy. But what happened to me, and I think this is so important for people that you work with and people who watch your show, is you think you can't do anything wrong when you've had so much success. I had failures in all those years, but I'd had such overwhelming success that I thought I could do no wrong. And then when everything was going against me, as I mentioned, the macroeconomics, every decision I made seemed to go the wrong way. I tried to buy myself time, and I broke the law. And that cost me. This is the cost of that failure. It cost me my family in many ways. It cost me my freedom, of course. It cost me many friendships, and it cost me a fortune and money. That's the bad side of it. So I want your listeners to get two things out of this today. One is have people around you. And I listen to one of your guests on one of your shows talk about 17 people around you. I always have six as kind of my number of and very similar types of people that they're saying, and you have to use them. It's one thing to say you have them. In those years that I had that unbelievable success, I used them many times daily, but certainly weekly or monthly, depending on their role. And those people kept me grounded. And when I came back, I thought, well, I don't need these people. I can do this on my own. And therein lies the problem. Because the analogy I draw, and it's in my book, I don't mind flying, but I had no desire to be a pilot. But I was and own part of the healthcare business with a pilot friend of mine, and very safe, unbelievably good pilot, twin engine, nice plane. And we'd fly around, and he said, Shaun, you have to know how to land this if something happened to me. So after 4 or 5 trips, I said, okay. So I'm trying to fly the plane, and I've probably flown it 20 minutes. But the example that a book will give you on aviation is if you leave LA, going to DC, and you're off 1 degree, time and distance will put you in New York. And that's what's happened when you get off that course, when you're just off course a little. And that's why I chose The Great Choice. I was in the gray a little, and then a little more, and then medium gray, and then dark gray, and then you're in the black. And you don't really realize where you are, because we as entrepreneurs think we can do anything, and we do a good job, I believe, that of trying to do anything, but we try to always do it on our own. And you just can't climb the mountain that you want to climb to reach your goals and objectives without having people around you to hold you accountable.
Yeah, and it's so important. You can't have success without being willing to admit there are certain skill sets you don't have and are not likely to acquire. And you need to have people with those skill sets to not just keep you grounded, but to give you the kind of advice you need in various circumstances.
So well said. I think that I sum it up in just a slightly different way of saying you need people around. The best business person you can be is knowing what you don't know. And that's why people like yourself who coach and who help these people, they want to try to do it on their own, but they need, I didn't say they need people like you in their lives. And that's just not what is ingrained in you. I can do this. Well, you can if you persevere, but you can't do it by yourself. There's no way.
Yeah, trying to do it all by yourself is one of the top 10 mistakes startups make. That's part of a
Yes.
workshop I do.
Oh,
So,
that's a great one. I would love to hear the other 9 sometime. I'm going to take you up on that.
yeah, I'm going to actually produce those as a YouTube series at some point. So talk about like an early failure and what you learned from it.
IT, and this is 25 years ago. We had a wonderful IT man, and he got up one day and came in and said, I'm unhappy in my relationship. I'm moving to Florida, and my lieutenant can do it for about a year. And he was right. About a year. Well, about 9 months into it, we hired a woman who was just one of the most brilliant IT people I've ever had in my life. And she came in and I said, Kim, you've got 60 days to tell me what you need. And she told me. And I hate saying this, Mary, and 60 days later, she came back with a great report. And the board, we approved spending $1.7 million. Well, in my mind, we were done. And so that was in November. And in March, I decided we had a chance to buy another company. And we'd done a lot of acquisitions. And I went to her and she said, Shaun, you can't do it. And she said, remember, I said, it takes a year from when you said yes, because you've got to order this, you've got to train, just not a snap of the fingers. And you know how entrepreneurs are. If I snap my fingers, I ought to be ready. Well, it wasn't. So in March, I said, okay. And we bought this company, but I agreed not to merge it till March of the next year. So I was good. And then May came along and it was the acquisition of a lifetime. And we had to complete it by Labor Day. And Kim said, Shaun, I'll put all the resources I can and we'll try to do it. The long and the short of it is when we failed, because this is a long story. In fact, it's out on YouTube as my greatest failure I gave a speech about 15 years ago. What happened was in one weekend, Mary, we lost $1,547,000 and in a weekend, and never to be found again because you lost all that data. Kim had a baby that weekend. We had to set up an entire operation in a hospital room, and still it took us another 3 months, and it really sucked the life out of myself and probably our whole company through our culture for a year. It wasn't the money. We actually, as a public company, reported 20+% earnings growth. You would never know, but I knew. We knew. And what I wanted to do, and this is why I say it was my greatest failure, that's the first time I ever looked, because I just wanted to fire someone. And finally, after about a week of just ranting and raving about firing someone, I came in and I said, no, I need to fire myself because the buck stops with me. And that to me was the best learning experience. And so when you gave me this topic today, I wanted to share my personal failure in one regard, but I also wanted to tell you that I've used truly my biggest failure as a stepping stone for going forward. And I've really immersed myself in studying Thomas Edison and Colonel Sanders and many men and women along the line who fail, Madam Curie, people who did all these great things, but they fail many, many times. And I think as an entrepreneur, we have to embrace failure. I think you picked a great title, and we have to use it as, whether you call it a cornerstone or a stepping stone for that next run.
Right. And it's important that you learn from your failures. Don't fail the same way more than once.
That is absolutely correct.
That's a big one. Well, thank you very much, Shaun Hayes, from being the author of The Great Choice. The book is going to come out in January, it's my understanding. We will put links in the comments so that people can get a hold of it. And this is a very important lesson learned. Fail fast, fail often, and learn from it. This is Mary Scott with Business Riff. Book a synergy call with me to find out exactly what resources are right for you. And join us again for Stuck, Time to Improv.